Everything begins with Ken dreaming of having a cooler life when suddenly, it starts to rain. He quickly seeks shelter in the shed, where he is greeted by the two most popular students, Suzune and Kazuki, who politely offer to share their umbrellas with him. This surprises Ken, who had assumed that both Kazuki and Suzune would be cold-hearted idiots, since they are not only good students but also famous, unlike him. As they begin walking together, Ken starts to get along with the popular kids, realizing that they are actually very humble and easygoing. At that moment, Kazuki and Suzune become confused, complaining about hearing a bell sound. Trying to hear the bells too, Ken tries to get closer to them when suddenly a magic circle opens, transporting them to another world. There, they are greeted by King Lloyd, the ruler of Linger. He apologizes for causing them inconvenience, but reveals that they were summoned to become the heroes Linger needs, as they have been attacked by the Demon King. Ken is visibly shaken by the events, but then he turns to look at Suzune, who seems excited. However, Kazuki gets angry and demands to be sent back to Japan. The king unfortunately reveals that teleportation only works once, which angers Kazuki even more, until Lloyd kneels before him, ashamed, promising that he will find a way to send them back to their world. Breaking the silence, Suzune asks the king why he calls them heroes when he knows nothing about them. The royal advisor, Welsi, answers that the summoning circle is designed to only select accomplished individuals. When she points out that the chosen heroes must have heard bells, Ken states expressionlessly that he heard nothing, meaning he should never be here. At that moment, Ken realizes that he is just Ken. Welsi then calls for the test to check their magical affinity. Suzune discovers she has an affinity for thunder magic, while Kazuki discovers he can use light magic. Finally, when it's Ken's turn, the magic ball glows with a green light. Horrified, Welsi drags Ken to Lloyd, revealing the whole matter to him. After learning everything, Lloyd is also seized by fear and emphasizes that Ken must be sent away from Linger before he is discovered by the one who must not be named. Confused, Ken wonders if Voldemort is after him when the door opens and a villain named Rose enters, scaring everyone, including the king. The entire room falls silent as Rose looks at Ken and introduces herself emotionlessly as the leader of the rescue team. Although intimidated by her, Ken wonders if she would yield before the anaconda in his pants. As Rose is leaving, Ken asks Lloyd and Welsi why the magic circle glowed green. Rose stops halfway and tells everyone that she will take Ken with her, but Welsi acts faster, putting him in a protective bubble and sending him away. However, this doesn't stop Rose, who turns into a lightning bolt and grabs Ken, announcing to everyone that she will take Ken with her and turn him into a full-fledged healer. Later, Welsi reveals to Kazuki and Suzune that Ken is a healer, which is extremely rare. That is why he will work with Rose, who is another healer. Suzune remarks that this doesn't seem like a problem until Welsi reveals that Rose's training methods are extremely brutal and difficult. Elsewhere, Rose takes Ken to her new home, where he is greeted by a group of Rose's ugly subordinates. Upon seeing Ken, they try to intimidate him by saying he's dead. Rose kicks them and reveals to Ken that these guys are not healers, but play an important role in the rescue team, as in war they bring the injured back to camp. With that, she announces that training begins tomorrow, which only makes Ken shudder. When tomorrow comes, Ken sees one of Rose's henchmen, Tong, sleeping, making him realize that he really is in another world. At that moment, Ken is visited by Suzune and Kazuki, who express their concern upon seeing him. Ken smiles upon realizing that the popular students consider him a friend, until he remembers that his training with Rose will start today. Seeing him full of dread, Suzune assures him that if he managed to survive math class, he can easily survive anything Rose has planned for him. With that, she reveals that she and Kazuki have also started their training. After a long silence, Kazuki suddenly grabs Ken's shoulder, stating that he will do his best, which makes Suzune and Ken smile at his enthusiasm. As they leave, Ken realizes that adjusting to this world must be harder for Kazuki. At that moment, Rose sticks her head out and asks if the heroes have left yet. Upon seeing her, Ken stands straighter than the pole his mother dances on. He bows in fear, which leads Rose to coldly reveal that this is not a prison and he doesn't need to act like a fool to please her. After that, she throws a diary at him and tells Ken that whenever he misses mommy, he can cry about it to the Dear Diary. A few hours later, Ken finds Rose to start his training. He remembers how Tong and the others said that training with Rose would be super hard, but for now everything seems perfect. Rose then orders him to release the mana in his body. When he fails, Rose throws a book at him and tells the illiterate loser to read it. To Ken's surprise, he can comprehend the language of Linger, which leads Rose to reveal that heroes from another world have this ability from the start. She then shows him how the Demon King's territory is right in front of Linger, which makes their kingdom an easy target. For the next 2 days, Rose orders Ken to run as if he were the father of 4 children. But when his legs can't take it anymore, Rose calls him trash. She also heals his muscles so he can become a novice again. On the 4th day, Ken trains with the rest of the henchmen to look handsome for the first time in his life. To his dismay, even the NPCs surpass him, which makes him extremely bitter. On the 7th day, even then Rose is not satisfied with him, so she kicks him. After being kicked and beaten for a few days straight, Ken realizes that Rose should be called a cactus, since she is prickly. He also manages to release a bit of healing light which he uses to heal himself after receiving injuries from Rose. Thanks to his new power, Ken starts running without complaining, because the moment he gets tired, he uses the healing light to heal his muscles. However, he also wonders if he will be able to reach Kazuki and Suzun's level if all he does is run. On day 11, Rose makes Ken train his upper body so he can have attractive biceps. During the training, she asks if he knows why she is making him train his body so intensely. When Ken remains silent, she reveals that it's because she wants him to escape from the enemy as fast as possible, as on the battlefield he needs to not only save himself but also help his injured allies. Upon hearing this, Ken focuses more on doing his training. Eventually, the day comes when his body is prepared for all the running and upper body exercises. Then Rose makes him train with weights. On day 14, Ken arrives at the cafeteria and finds that Tong has eaten his lunch. Furious, he chases him like a stray dog, despite wearing a weight plate. A week later, Suzun and Kazuki arrive to find Ken. However, when they find him exercising, they are instantly shocked. To push Ken to the limit, Rose adds 2 weight blocks on his back, and when she sees him doing perfect push-ups, she says he is finally becoming a man she would like to procreate with. Meanwhile, Suzun gets wet seeing Ken's biceps pump. Kazuki, on the other hand, is worried about his well-being. Suddenly, the royal guard accompanying the princess and the 2 heroes grabs Rose by the collar. Siglise angrily argues that she is destroying Ken's mind and body. Calmly, Rose tells Sig that he can shove his morals, as she will be the one to decide how she trains Ken. After all, he will become her right-hand man. Everyone present, including Ken, is surprised as Rose continues to reveal that Ken has a fire that prevents him from giving up. This makes him a perfect fit for her most trusted ally. With that, she tells Ken to relax with his friend while she deals with old man Siglise. Following orders, Ken takes Suzun and Kazuki to a meadow, where he discovers that Siglise is actually the kingdom's strongest knight, who commands Linger's army. His attention then turns to the princess, who quickly introduces herself as Celia. After a while, Kazuki asks Ken if he usually has intense training sessions. To his surprise, Ken reveals that today's training was super light. When he asks about his training, Kazuki informs him that although the training itself is difficult, Welsi ensures they are well rested and cared for. Ken is happy to hear this, stating that it's Rose who is a brutal maniac. For some reason, upon hearing this, Kazuki becomes apologetic and tells Ken he is sorry. Before he can ask why he's acting like a killjoy, Suzun tries to tease him by lifting his shirt. When Kazuki asks if it's hard for him, Ken admits that it is, and that he wanted to run away at the beginning, but now he's starting to enjoy the training. Satisfied with his answer, Kazuki decides to train more intensely than before. The next day, Rose tells Ken that they are going out. Without waiting for him, she tells a young knight named Thomas to open the gate, as she wants to show Ken what's outside the walls. Having seen even the Titan, Ken gets nervous. Soon they arrive at a forest that is famous for monster activity. Without a second thought, Rose throws Ken towards the forest, telling him to hunt some bears for her. As Ken flies, he realizes he will never receive special affection from a fierce girl, thanks to Rose and her orthodox training method. Fortunately, he remembers that he can now activate a healing light, so he uses it and saves himself from being crushed. However, now in the forest, Ken worries about capturing a large bear. He tries to cheer himself up, assuring himself that he can easily take down a bear now that he has a defined abdomen. However, the moment he sees the bear, he starts running as if his life depends on it. After running like the guy from Temple Run, Ken decides to face his enemy head-on. He challenges the bear to come at him, but the bear calls its friends, which makes Ken run again. To save his skin, Ken dives into the waterfall and arrives safely on the shore. The next day, he starts his hunt for a large grizzly bear again. This time, he determines to learn more about his enemy. So, he tries to find the bear's den. However, while searching for the bear's den, Ken comes across an injured rabbit. Noticing how cute it is, Ken quickly uses his healing light to heal the little one. And to his surprise, the rabbit starts following him. He tries to send the cutie away, as he doesn't want it to get hurt during his bear hunt, but the rabbit refuses and continues to follow him. Later, Ken realizes that the rabbit wants to show where the large bear is as a form of payment. A few seconds later, Ken finds the den thanks to the rabbit. He notices the bears sleeping together, making him realize that bears move in a group. On the third day, Ken finds company in the rabbit, and together they keep a close watch on the bears. The next day, Ken rides in pain, realizing that the lake water he was drinking was probably full of monster pee. Fortunately, his new friend guides him to a lake that contains clean water. As Ken drinks from it, he notices the rabbit looking scared. Before he can ask what's wrong, the rabbit jumps into a tree and signals for Ken to join him. When he does, Ken's eyes widen upon seeing a giant anaconda slithering through the trees. Despite never having read about this creature before, Ken concludes that this snake wants blood. A few days later, Ken continues to observe the bear family as usual. However, he starts to find them cute until he remembers that without defeating the large bear, he can't return home. So he decides to challenge the bear tomorrow. The next day, it starts to rain and Ken's new friend begs him not to go hunting today. Sighing, Ken tells the little one that he will wait until the rain stops. As soon as the rain ceases, Ken walks determinedly towards the bear's den, despite the friend's disagreement. However, the moment he arrives at the den, he finds the entire bear family annihilated. Ken gets nervous, realizing that Rose will probably kick him for letting someone else steal his prey. He then notices the bite marks on the deceased bears and concludes that it must be the work of that giant worm. The more he studies the bodies, the more Ken realizes how dangerous the snake really is, as it eliminated the bears just for fun. Suddenly, the last remaining cub arrives on the scene and finds its parents dead. As it cries, Ken thinks about how he had to harden his heart to appease Rose. But it's all in vain. The more he hears the cub cry, the more determined Ken becomes to take down that monstrous snake. Meanwhile, Suzune and Kazuki arrive to check on their friend, only to find out that he has been training in the dark forest for 10 whole days. Kazuki becomes worried, which doesn't go unnoticed by Suzune. So she reassures him by saying that Ken is like a cockroach and would survive anything. Back in the forest, Ken trains like Bruce Lee for his confrontation with the snake. He asks the rabbit to show him the monster's hiding place, and then orders it to run the moment he starts fighting it. The rabbit agrees and leads Ken to the snake. And to his surprise, he finds the cub fighting the snake for what it did to its parents. Ken shudders upon seeing the snake, but in the end, he realizes that it's still not as scary as his trainer. So he hardens his courage and charges at the snake, managing to blind it in one eye. To Ken's despair, the injury doesn't stop the snake from biting his arm. Screaming in pain, Ken uses healing light and forces his body to stab the snake, despite everything. As soon as the monster releases his arm, Ken feels dizzy, realizing he has been poisoned by the snake's venom. Ken calls the snake a cheater and says it hasn't won, since he now knows how to heal himself from the poison. With renewed determination, Ken charges at the snake again. This time, the cub helps, and together they finally manage to take down the beast. As Ken catches his breath trying to stabilize his body, he receives affection from the cub when suddenly the snake rises again. The cub, worried about Ken, tries to drag him away as Ken stares death in the face. He says goodbye to his friends and then curses Rose out loud when suddenly she arrives and sends the snake straight to hell. Surprised, Ken asks why she is here, and Rose proudly reveals that the rabbit he had befriended is actually her pet, Kukuru, who revealed everything to her. She also tells him that she was always watching him, but even she was surprised to see the monster snake. Ken, curious, asks if she knows the beast, and Rose informs him that the snake was created by the Demon King's army. And even the strongest knight, Siglis, failed to eliminate it. Hearing this, Ken curses Rose for sending a novice like him to a dangerous forest, which makes the grizzly bear cub angry on his behalf. Seeing this, Rose smiles and tells the cub that from now on, he has a master. The cub agrees, puts Kin on its back, but Rose decides to show who's boss and puts them all on her back. She tells Kin that she heard him call her an ugly gorilla, so he better prepare for the nut-crushing punishment later. After a while, Rose praises Kin for passing her test, revealing that the two healers she had at the beginning failed. With that, she tells him to prepare, as the demon army is coming. Kin asks Rose if she is sure that a war will start soon. Rose affirms, further revealing that he will be on the front lines with her, healing the wounded. Terrified, Kin asks why Tong and the other NPCs are not on the front lines. Rose states that although there are 2 other healers, they will be stationed with Tong and the rest elsewhere. Shaken by the news, Kin asks why she is so strong, making Rose announce that he needs to become strong in the little time they have left. Meanwhile, at the Demon King's castle, a loyal knight informs his king that the preparations for war are almost finished. The Demon King coldly tells the knight that if she does not win in his name, she will be punished by him. The knight Amila assures the Demon King that she will do her best, which pleases him. Leaving the room, Amila breathes a sigh of relief when the demon doctor arrives, mocking her for being nervous despite being the honored 3rd commander of the army. The weirdo named Hiraluk further provokes Amila, making his passion for her very obvious. To get her attention, Hiraluk tells Amila that he is almost finished creating the newest monster prototype made by demons and asks if she wants to go with him to the basement. Amila, being very attractive, follows Hiraluk, who proudly shows off the monster prototype named Baljanak. It turns out that Baljanak is the exact replica of the snake that Kin and Rose hunted. Amila also points out that he is not creative enough, which irritates Hiraluk, who talks about Baljanak being much stronger than its predecessor. Amila, now uninterested, tells Hiraluk that she hopes he doesn't disappoint her, as she wants to destroy all of Linger. Smiling, Hiraluk asks if she is talking about the kidnappers, which makes her grind her teeth in anger. She states that she hates the kidnappers more than anything, as they take the wounded away before she can sell their organs on the dark web. But more than her hatred for the kidnappers, she detests their leader, Rose, who heals everyone on the spot and still manages to fight very well, something that Sakura Haruno can only dream of. Emotional damage. After feeling Amila's bitterness, Hiraluk warns that she cannot go after Rose, since she will be commanding the army. Amila sighs, saying she knows and that is why she will send the demon known as the Black Knight to hunt Rose. Back in Linger, Kin hugs his pillow, grateful to be back in his bed. Later, he checks on his pet and brings food from the cafeteria for it. When he sees Kakuru, Kin pouts and says that he made a fool of him. To manipulate him again, Kuru puts on her best cute face, which Kin falls for once more. In the end, Kakuru wins and gets a treat from Kin. Seeing this, the bear cub tells him to feed it too, which he does. But then Kin realizes that it also needs a name, so he calls it Blurin. Rose hears the name and tells Kin that he is so bad with names that she is sure his future children will be bullied. Ignoring her, Kin remains proud until Rose reveals that the king allowed him to keep Blurin, but he must earn its keep. Upon hearing this, Blurin becomes terrified, which makes Rose happy, since he can't call his parents on her. Kin tries to divert attention and asks what she wants Blurin to do. Then Rose tells Kin to carry Blurin on his shoulders, imagining it as an injured person, which would help gain perspective of a real scenario on the battlefield. With that, she yells for him to run, and Kin starts running. However, this time he is more confident than ever, as he thinks he just needs to manage his mana and he will be fine. Suddenly, Tong approaches him, and then the others quickly join. Confused, Kin asks what they are doing, causing the NPCs to reveal that they are simulating the battlefield, since it won't be easy to save yourself and wounded allies in the real case. 1 hour later, Kin faces stink bombs designed to disorient him. 4 hours later, Kin starts to feel strange and falls to the ground. While resting, Kin observes to himself that he thought he would last longer than just 4 hours, when Rose arrives and reveals that he needs to remember that humans feel all kinds of emotions like exhaustion, fear, and nervousness on the battlefield. These emotions also have an impact on the body, often slowing it down. When Kin asks what he should do, Rose says to build mental strength so as not to waver in the face of fear. As soon as she finishes healing him, she tells Kin that he needs to run in the castle city with Blurin on his back. Following orders, Kin resumes his training, catching the attention of the city's residents as they whisper about Blurin. Kin sighs, knowing that they are afraid of a blue bear known as a monster. However, the people quickly realize that Kin is one of the heroes, which allows them to relax. Meanwhile, Blurin wakes from its sleep and tells Kin to buy the fruits he had before. Kin stops at a fruit shop and asks the old lady about the fruit, and she reveals that they are called peffles, a specialty of Linger. He then asks the lady why everyone is so relaxed when he is literally carrying a monster on his back. The lady smiles and says that everyone knows he is from the rescue team, as he is wearing that ugly yellow shirt. Thanking the lady, Kin decides to visit his friends when a man runs after him and eventually falls, unable to keep up. This catches Kin's attention, and he finally pays attention to the blonde man. While healing him, Kin finds out that the man's name is Orga, and he is another healer from the rescue team. As the two guys talk, Orga tells Kin that he certainly has nerves of steel for putting up with Rose's training, since he and his younger sister couldn't. He further reveals that he has a clinic in the city that he uses to help the peasants. Kin then points out that if he is a healer, why couldn't he heal himself before? And Orga admits that he can heal others, but not himself. More curious than ever, Kin asks Orga what his role is on the battlefield. So he reveals that Tong and the rest take the wounded soldiers to the rear, then he and his sister get to work their magic. This leads Kin to admit that Rose asked him to join her on the front lines, but he is still unsure about his abilities as a healer. Orga's face turns serious as he tells Kin that it's always the knights and the heroes fighting on the front lines, since they are always facing the greatest risk. If they get injured, they will end up perishing, but if there are healers, they can be saved. That is why Rose chose him, because she knows it is exhausting work, and yet trusts him to support her. After talking with Orga, Kin arrives at the castle and is greeted by Susan, who is excited to see Blurin. As they talk, Kin notices her injured hand from sword training and uses healing light on it, which puts her in ovulation mode. She asks Kin if he came to see her, and he casually reveals that he wanted to meet up with her and Kazuki. Susan tells Kin that he is never going to get laid and then reveals that Kazuki is hunting in the forest with Siglis. Later that night, Kin tells Rose that when she asked him to join her on the front lines, he was scared, but now he wants to do everything he can to help. However, he admits that he cannot fight and cannot kill anyone, as he is only capable of being a healer. Rose tells Kin that she always knew he was a coward, but that it's okay, since his only job is to keep the allies alive. For the first time, Kin begins to feel like an integral part of the rescue team. The next day, Rose wakes up, revealing that the king ordered him to join Susan on her monster hunting training, as they head out to find the rest of the group. Kin asks Rose why he was ordered to join Susan suddenly. She reveals that the king had also asked for him to join Kazuki's group, but she refused on his behalf, since he had just returned from the forest. But now the king asked again, and she cannot afford to refuse the old man a second time. When they meet up with Susan's group, she excitedly asks Kin if he brought Blurin for her to be happy. To her disappointment, Kin flatly states that Blurin only likes him, so he can't leave him alone. Pouting, Susan tries to mask her embarrassment by introducing Kin to the rest of her team, Roku, the knight, and Korin, the mage. Rose then tells the whole group that while Kin can heal wounds and poisons, his skills are useless if everyone gets taken out, so she warns them not to overestimate Kin's abilities and put themselves in unnecessary danger. Kin looks at Rose expressionlessly, expecting to receive a word of wisdom meant for him, but Rose ignores him like all villains ignore you. Elsewhere, Kazuki trains with his sword when Celia intercepts him and tells him to rest. He assures the princess that he is fine, which only leads Celia to state that if he wants to work out so badly, she can book a honeymoon suite and he can draw his big black sword. Meanwhile, when Susan's group gets near the forest, Kin fears that Blurin might feel depressed returning to the place where his family was murdered. For now, Blurin sleeps comfortably on his back, but suddenly Susan tries to pet him. Kin intercepts in time and tells her to keep her dirty hands off his bear cub. Blurin wakes up soon after, so Kin tells him to walk on his own. Susan seizes the opportunity and encourages him to climb on her back. However, the moment he does, Susan realizes that Blurin is a big bear-shaped tungus. As soon as they arrive in the forest, Korin immediately detects an evil presence, and seconds later, the group finds themselves ambushed by bandits. Seeing them use the same cliché lines to seem scary, Kin thinks about how he can easily take them all on, while Susan gets excited seeing real bandits. She shares this with Kin, revealing that in Japan her biggest fears were Discord moderators and otakus, but in Linger they have real bandits. Seeing the commotion, Blurin looks curiously at the bandits, which scares them. However, their leader Rock assures his companions that the blue bear can't hurt them, since it's just a cub. With morale recovered, they try to capture Blurin for its fur, when Suzune uses thunder magic to teach them a lesson. Impressed with her skills, Ken encourages Suzune to go crazy with her powers, and if she were to overdo it, he would use his healing light. Following his advice, Suzune gives it her all, while Ken encourages her and calls her a human eel. Just as the group is about to face the final boss, a horde of autumn boars appears. One of the boars charges directly towards Suzune, but before it can hurt her, Ken uses his body as a shield. This causes the boar to butt both of them together, and the impact of the attack sends them flying towards a waterfall. Ken immediately recognizes the waterfall from his first trip, so he braces himself and warns Suzune to prepare for a fall. As soon as they reach the shore, Ken uses healing light on Suzune's face so she doesn't become more horrifying than she already is. Now separated from the rest of the group, and with no food, Ken worries while Suzune urges him to abandon the mission and return to the castle city. However, Ken reveals to her that the weather will get worse in a few hours, so they should worry about finding shelter for now. With that, he asks if she can sleep in the trees like her ancestors, the chimpanzees. Suzune looks at the trees longingly, but reveals that she always wanted to climb trees, but never could, as she was never allowed. Sighing, Ken then tells Suzune that they should take shelter in the cave for now. Finding the idea acceptable, Suzune changes clothes and uses her magic to catch fish for dinner. Next, Ken asks her to light a bonfire, which she does easily. At nightfall, Ken, happy to have some warmth, takes off his shirt and enjoys the bonfire. Meanwhile, Suzune looks at Ken's body, as if she were Dee Dee and he were Justin Bieber. Luckily for Ken, Suzune gets distracted by a group of poisonous monkeys. When she starts playing with them, Ken panics and tells her that the monkeys literally have poison as their first name, but Suzune doesn't realize until it's too late. Meanwhile, Kazuki finds out from Left that Suzune's monster hunting mission went wrong and that both she and Ken are missing. In a panic, he announces that he is going to the forest himself, when Rose arrives and reassures him, saying that Ken won't die so easily and therefore Suzune will also live. Back in the cave, Ken says they should take turns sleeping, so Suzune tells him to sleep first. However, just as the man is about to fall asleep, she starts chattering, asking if he wants to return to Japan. Ken reveals that he wants to return because he misses the heartburn that Buldak noodles gave him, but at the same time he doesn't want to return. Suzune then admits that she does not want to return to their world, as she lived an empty life there. She is free from the shackles that society placed on her. Listening to her, Ken reveals that he too wanted to escape his ordinary life, so, in a way, they are the same. Once they both bare their hearts, they make a promise to protect the home they have created. The next morning, Blurin manages to sniff out Ken and the group reunites, with the exception of Korin. Suddenly, Blurin finds its old home, which makes Ken sad. However, after sniffing around, Blurin decides that it wants to live with Ken to continue being a big Toongus. Satisfied with the events, Suzune reaches out to Ken and says they should go home, the one they chose here. Upon arriving back at the castle city, Ken and Suzune visit the palace, where Lloyd apologizes for not sending a search party for them. They assure the king that they are fine, but Ken ends up revealing that Rose sends him on dangerous missions, as if his mother had spare children and didn't care about losing one. Realizing his mistake, he tries to save the situation, saying that he used to wander the forest in Japan. Lloyd then asks how he is handling the training with the rescue team, which leads Ken to look at Rose. Knowing that if he wants to keep his balls safe, he nervously tells the king that he is enjoying the training. Rose gives him a satisfied smile, which confirms his belief that if he had said otherwise, he would have gotten a beating. The king dismisses both Suzune and Ken, but asks Rose and Siglis to stay. As soon as they leave, Ken shares with Suzune that he is worried about why Lloyd asked their respective instructors to stay. Suddenly, Kazuki comes running towards them with Princess Celia right behind him. Seeing this, Ken tells Kazuki that he sure made the princess crazy for the dragon in his pants. Kazuki ignores the comment, and instead scolds them for making him worry. Celia joins the conversation, complaining that Kazuki was so worried about them that she didn't get her usual glide. Suzune laughs and tells Kazuki that he shouldn't treat a lady like that. Just as Ken jokes by telling Kazuki how Suzune got bitten by a monkey, she covers his mouth so that Kazuki continues to think she is still a powerful girl. Later, Kazuki even reveals to the group that Rose was so confident that Ken wouldn't die that she was willing to bet her kidneys on it, and that's why he didn't go after them. Realizing that he is a great friend, Ken pats Kazuki on the shoulder and tells him to always be loyal to friends. When Suzune and Ken head out to rest, Celia tells Kazuki that their bond is beautiful. Thinking she is talking about Ken and Suzune, Kazuki admits that they have gotten closer, but the princess reveals that she was talking about his bond with Ken and Suzune. He always seems happy when they are around, which leads Kazuki to state that it's because Ken and Suzune are from his world. Overcome with emotion, Celia asks if that means he has no room for her in his heart, since he still treats her like a stranger. Shocked by her boldness, Kazuki looks at Celia surprised, which embarrasses her. Then he assures the princess that he will treat her as if she were his favorite eagle. Back at the palace, Lloyd states that he wants to discuss the bandits who attacked Suzune and Ken. His minister Sergio steps forward, revealing that the bandits were camping in the forest because there were fewer monsters than normal when, suddenly, they were attacked by a pack of flying boars. Lloyd observes that if they take the bandits' testimony into account, it means the boars were fleeing from something terrifying that is heading straight for Linger. Now alerted, Siglight wonders if the Demon King's army is coming. Lloyd agrees that this may be the case, so he asks Siglies to notify all units and prepare for battle. As soon as the minister and the knight commander leave to attend to their respective orders, King Lloyd turns to Rose and states that he wants her to go on a dangerous mission. Rose immediately understands and says she knows he wants her to find out the whereabouts of the Demon King's army. Lloyd apologizes for putting her in danger, but Rose assures him that, since she is basically the replica of this nation, she will go immediately. Before turning to leave, Lloyd asks her to reconsider leading his troops, but she rejects the offer, stating she is not pure of heart like he believes her to be. Lloyd sighs and asks why she puts herself down so much. Full of anger, Rose reminds the king that the last war she fought cost the lives of her most loyal companions. Even if she wants to forget and move on, her left eye will always be a reminder of what she lost. Lloyd tries to assure her that it wasn't her fault, but Rose disagrees, citing that she was arrogant to think she could lead a battalion alone. That is why she now works for the rescue team, which focuses on saving others. Lloyd admits that the rescue team is valuable, as it has saved many of his men from the recent wardrobe. But Rose reveals she has an ulterior motive. She created the rescue team to have a subordinate who would not die under her command. Shocked, the king states that such a thing is not humanly possible. However, Rose states that rigorous training combined with healing magic and mental strength finally made Ken the ideal subordinate. He became someone she can rely on. That night, Ken returns to the cabin when one of the NPCs named Gomel tells him that Rose asked to deliver a letter. Elsewhere, Amila pressures her subordinates to build a bridge, despite the terrible weather hindering their work. The Black Knight, upon seeing this, tells Amila that she is unbearable, which annoys her. She scolds the giant tin can, who casually says that the other army leaders are much cooler than her as he walks away, leaving her furious. Harilik tries to act like the White Knight, but Amila dismisses him. Instead, she focuses her energy on the bridge, because its completion will allow her to conquer the kingdom of Linger for her master. Suddenly, one of the subordinates informs Amila that they have spotted an enemy scout. Arrogant as ever, she states that it doesn't matter, because the bridge is about to be completed, and within a few hours they will be inside Linger. Suddenly, a log is thrown at the bridge, breaking the entire structure. Overcome with anger, Amila screams Rose's name, who flees before being captured. When morning comes, Ken goes to the castle town to deliver the letter. He arrives at a clinic where he is greeted by a girl who claims to know him because of her brother Orga. She introduces herself as Yururu and announces that she is at the age to make babies. Ken tries to divert her attention by asking about her brother. Then Yururu takes him to show Orga working on a young patient. After finishing, he greets Ken, who conveys Rose's letter to him. As Orga prepares to read, Yururu expresses to Ken that she misses training with Rose, revealing that when she and Orga joined, the rescue team was still new. Back then, Rose was always enthusiastic about teaching them. Eventually, they grew tired of Rose's strenuous training, even came to fear her. Suddenly, a peasant urgently informs Orga and Yururu that a roof has collapsed, injuring several people. Everyone immediately runs out as Orga asks for Ken's help. A bit nervous, Ken thinks that he has only healed minor injuries, which weren't as bad as open wounds, but now he must prepare for such situations because war is coming. Sensing his hesitation, Orga encourages Ken to believe in himself. This makes him remember that Kazuki told him how Rose has blind faith in him. So Ken focuses on the man's injury and manages to heal it. Later, he thanks Orga and heads home. Meanwhile, Orga reveals to Yururu that Rose wrote the letter to inform him about the impending war. On the way, Ken meets a mysterious girl who tells him to look into her eyes, as only he can change the future. Unsure of what is happening, Ken looks and sees the Black Knight spreading death over Linger soldiers, including Suzune and Kazuki. The premonition ends as Ken takes a deep breath. The mysterious girl runs away after telling him that only he can save everyone. After recovering from the shock, Ken tries to find out more. So he runs after the girl while she secretly watches him, hoping he will figure out a way to save them all from ruin. After searching for her everywhere, Ken asks Thomas if he saw an ugly girl with cute ears. Suddenly, Rose arrives and asks Ken why he is fooling around. Thomas, who is afraid of belly mummies, runs away upon seeing Rose. Ken taunts Rose, saying her bed probably has spider webs, since no man wants to sleep with her. Of course, Ken gets a well-deserved beating from her. And once she finishes putting him in line, he asks what she has been up to. Rose reveals she was on the outskirts of Linger on a reconnaissance mission. She informs him that she easily displaced a bridge, which leads Ken to state that only a muscle mom like her can do such a thing. Rose doesn't like the flattering comment, so she punishes Ken again. Later, on the way home, Ken asks if she knows anything about a girl with fox ears. Rose reveals that a beast girl with that appearance arrived in Linger 2 years ago, which was surprising to many, as she was quite young. When Ken asks why, Rose informs him that beast girls are attractive and possess magical abilities, which makes them targets for many kidnappers. Upon hearing this, Ken asks if they can also show someone what the future holds. And Rose reveals that there was a tribe of Beastrals known as the Oracles of Time who could see the future, but they are now rare and usually protected by other Beastral clans. When Rose asks why he's asking all this, Ken lies and says he was just curious. She decides not to press him to speak more and goes to meet King Lloyd alone. Upon arriving, she informs Lloyd and Siglise about what she saw and did. Lloyd thanks her for delaying the enemy, but Rose insists that they have no time, as they will quickly rebuild the bridge and infiltrate their lands. The room falls silent. Understanding the gravity of the situation, the king then announces that he will inform the soldiers and civilians about what is to come and asks Siglise to summon the two heroes. As Kazuki and Suzune head to the royal hall, they meet Celia, who greets them. Upon seeing her, Kazuki stumbles over his words and ends up being too formal with her. Celia, hurt by Kazuki's unchanged behavior, silently apologizes, which leads Suzune to ask Kazuki if he is applauding that royal kitten. A few hours later, Ken tosses and turns in bed, unable to sleep when he notices glowing balls outside the window. After investigating, he finds Kazuki calling him. The two young men sit together as Kazuki finally admits that he is dying of fear at the idea of going into battle. He also reveals that when he was hunting monsters, his legs froze in terror, making him realize how weak he is. After listening to him, Ken admits that he is the coolest guy he knows. Back in Japan, he always remained calm under pressure. So he thought he should never feel fear, but now he knows he is as human as he is. Kazuki looks at Ken surprised, who assures him that it's okay to mess up. He doesn't always have to live up to anyone's expectations. Kazuki then asks what he feels about the battle, and Ken admits that, although he is scared, he will face the Demon King's forces head-on. Shocked once again, Kazuki asks why he isn't scared, especially since he came to this world only because the plot god didn't use the good old truck. Ken explains that he doesn't want to waste time thinking about that because he is here now, and intends to save the people dear to him, which includes him. Hearing this, Kazuki slaps his own face twice, realizing he was acting like a fool, but now he will muster his courage and protect those he loves. The next morning, King Lloyd gives a speech that he copied from Commander Evan. Naturally, all the soldiers are full of energy and ready to sacrifice their lives. On the day of the battle, Kazuki, dressed in armor, comes to see Celia. He apologizes for interrupting, but the princess expresses that she is happy to see him. Meanwhile, Ken watches Yururu trying her best to pet Blurin, who is too Sigma for her. Orga then reveals that, as it is Yururu's first war, she is trying her best to distract herself. Tom arrives and tells Ken that Rose wants to see him in her room, which makes him wonder if it's finally time to procreate. However, when he arrives, Rose scolds him to be smart on the battlefield, as he has to decide what to prioritize in times of crisis. With that, she tells him to wear the official uniform, which he accepts with pride. Rose admits that he only looks good in the uniform because his body is all defined. She then warns him not to die, or she will kick his parts until they are blue and black. That said, the entire rescue team, including Yururu and Orga, settles into a carriage to reach the designated camp. On the way, Ken asks Rose about demons, and she reveals that they are basically humans who were not satisfied with normal butts, so they decided to mate with bulls. Thus, they became half-human with horns. However, they also possess more mana and physical strength compared to humans. To further scare Ken, Rose reveals that their common soldiers can easily take on their special knights alone. With that, she asks if he is scared now, but Ken says cheekily that he knows someone much more brutal than demons. Rose instantly knows it's her, so she curses at him. Ken pouts and tells Rose that it's not fair for her not to tolerate a light joke. In response, she gives him a look that his mother gives him after seeing his report card. 5 years ago, King Lloyd gathers his important knights and ministers and informs them about demon sightings in the forest near Linger. He orders everyone to stay alert and train more, as demons are stronger than humans. As soon as the meeting is adjourned, Siglise asks Rose what she thinks about the matter. She replies that the demons probably want to expand their territories. Upon hearing this, Siglise decides to subject his men to a rigorous training regime, which leads Rose to mock him, calling him a pessimist. As she leaves, Rose gets lost in her thoughts as a purple-haired brat tries to get her attention. In the end, she receives a playful flick from Rose, which makes her cry. The girl named All complains that her master is too mean, which earns her another flick. The two walk together as All expresses that if demons appear in Linger, she will simply throw Belle Delphini's bathwater at them, which will exorcise them. Upon hearing her mock the situation, Rose warns that underestimating an enemy is always fatal. They arrive at the cabin where Rose tells her group that she will put them on a rigorous schedule and that they can thank All. In seconds, the entire group turns against All, ready to beat her until she learns to shut her big mouth. A week later, Lloyd informs Rose that the demons are making organized attacks near the outskirts of Linger. He asks her to keep a watchful eye and even use force if necessary. Rose accepts the orders and later conveys the mission to her team. She also informs them that, as this mission is high priority, she will also join them. Upon hearing this, the group celebrates, stating that if she is there, they will have nothing to worry about getting hurt, since she can heal instantly. The next day, they enter the dark forest, where Rose announces her plan to scour the west side of the forest. When no one disagrees with her, she asks if they want to make some criticisms. To her surprise, everyone assures her that they trust her with their lives. Later that night, when all her teammates are sleeping, All asks Rose why she chose her as vice commander. She goes on to say that she has always been a stubborn girl who never listened to her superiors if the orders didn't seem right to her. This was until she met her, and her days of rebellion ended. That is why she respects her so much. However, Rose, being at Sundara, gives her such a hard flick that it sends her flying. However, she tells All that she chose her as vice commander with full confidence, because she never gave up. Just as All is about to get emotional, her team wakes up and assures her that they all love her, but won't include her in the chat group. The next day, Rose and her team witness a group of demons capturing a pack of monster wolves. Their leader, Nero, instantly detects their presence, causing Rose to reveal herself. She says she doesn't want conflict, but Nero states it's too late for that, and a full-scale battle begins between the two groups. Rose and Nero charge at each other at full speed. The demon, with his wind magic, tries to take down Rose, who uses her healing and superhuman strength to fight. This causes Nero to acknowledge his opponent and summon his shadow sword to take her down. Meanwhile, All and the rest quickly discover the strength of a single demon soldier. However, despite the difficulties, they aim to show the enemies the power of Rose's squad. Back to the main event, Rose observes the gleaming sword and realizes it is imbued with a curse, meaning she absolutely cannot let Nero touch her with it. Stealing her determination, she punches Nero so hard that he is forced to admit to Rose that he is a coward compared to her. He expresses that he wasn't well prepared, as they were only hunting monsters, but now they have been overwhelmed by a pesky group of humans. Irritated, Rose asks why he is chattering so much in the middle of the battle, leading Nero to start another session of chatter about how humans, who were once powerful and grand, are now weak and impotent. After returning home, Rose allows herself to properly mourn for the first time. A month later, Siglise pays a visit to Rose. She reveals to him that even the king came to her humble abode to ensure she didn't disconnect from life. Rose immediately interrupts him and states that it was foolish of him to underestimate her and her team. Nero accepts his mistake, acknowledging that she may be the biggest obstacle in his dream. Curious, Rose asks what dream he is talking about, and then Nero reveals that their demon lord will soon awaken, and by his grace, this world will see the age of demons. Rose is frightened to see Nero transform into a fervent redhead. Likewise, his subordinates show their determination, taking down 2 members of Rose's squad. One by one, they all begin to fall dead, filling Rose with horror. She realizes she won't make it, while Nero somberly states that he ordered his men to die fighting. For this, they will fight to the bitter end. Her mind begins to break, and in retaliation, Rose tries to grab Nero, but he ends up blinding her in one eye. Desperate to regain control of her body, Rose tries to heal her injury, but Nero says it's useless, as his sword can temporarily block magic. In the background, her teammates, all severely wounded, scream for Rose to heal them, but she finds herself powerless. Just as Nero is about to finish her off, All arrives in time and protects Rose with her own life. The battlefield falls silent as the once fierce Rose falls to her knees, realizing that all her loyal friends have perished, and yet she is still alive. Recalling memories from the past, Rose curses herself, knowing her allies entrusted their lives to her. They thought they were invincible if they had their commander by their side, since every wound was temporary thanks to her healing light, but now she has disappointed them, and there is no turning back. Hearing her laments, Nero tells Rose that he will never forget his fallen comrades, as they fought bravely until the end. Now enraged, Rose gives Nero the 90s wives treatment, beating him violently. She angrily states that he is a coward who sent his men to sacrifice their lives for a meaningless mission. Grabbing her sword, she continues to beat Nero, and when she is about to take him down, her body begins to come undone. Rose tries to push herself, determined to avenge her allies, when a young Amila appears from the trees, desperate to save her master. Upon seeing her, Nero scolds Amila for leaving her hiding spot, which confuses Rose, since Nero had just sacrificed his entire squad without hesitation. Amila manages to free Nero, and while trying to take him away, Rose shouts for her to stop. However, in her she sees something, which weakens her heart, allowing Amila to drag Nero to safety. Suddenly, Rose hears all calling for her. She runs to his side and tries to heal his wound, but all knows it is useless and assures Rose that he has no regrets and would not have wished for a different end. With that, all stops breathing, and the next day, Rose emotionlessly reports to King Lloyd and the others about the Demon King's arrival. As soon as she finishes reporting, she asks the king to revoke her knighthood, as she no longer has the will to fight. On her way home, Rose is greeted by Josh's parents, a knight who died fighting for her. Overcome with guilt, she apologizes to the parents, who thank her for bringing their son back home, allowing them the chance to say goodbye. With that, she admits that she contemplated following her allies to the afterlife, which worries Siglys, and he grabs Rose by the collar. She assures him that she is only thinking about it and hasn't gotten all emotional yet. After releasing her, Siglys comments that her scars are healing. Rose reveals that the curse of Nero's sword was always meant to be temporary, and when he asks why she isn't healing her eye if that is the case, she falls silent. Siglys leaves knowing there is more than one screw loose in Rose, but later Rose holds her eye, stating that her broken eye is the proof of her sin for letting her comrades die. She also knows that in the end she cannot choose to die since all gave up his life to save her, so she wonders if she should dedicate her life to revenge. However, that idea doesn't feel right to her. Sighing, she tries to relax, but all she can see are the memories of her fallen comrades. Rose wonders when she became so weak when an imaginary her appears in front of her, saying that if everyone were there, they would laugh at how silly she looks. She remembers always remaining the same, as that was her death wish. Rose begins to cry, knowing she is tarnishing her comrades' deaths, and in that moment she swears to never allow herself to be so weak again. She also realizes that in the near future there will be a massive battle between the demons and the humans, but when that battle happens, she will be there healing the wounded, ensuring that no one dies under her watch. In the present, Rose suddenly tells Ken that she is happy to have him. Surprised, he asks if she finally got laid last night, but Rose mocks and states that he has no idea how precious he is to her. Still trying to guess why she is being so sweet, Ken asks if her cucumber made her come, which earns him a punch to the stomach. Rose states that she always wanted a subordinate like him, so she is extremely happy to have found him. The next day, Ken leaves his tent nervous about the upcoming battle. Outside, he finds Suzune and Kazuki, who comment that since he is wearing the same uniform as Rose, they now look like that tacky couple. Ignoring the teasing, Ken asks why they are awake so early, and Suzune reveals they were going for a morning walk, since they don't want to become a chairbender like him. She then asks what he thinks of her new armor, since Ken is only interested in seeing what's underneath all that metal. He expresses disinterest, But Susan continues talking about how this armor is custom-made to support her thunder magic. When she finishes, Ken tells her to use her mouth in a better way, getting her some oral support. Rose gets angry and tells Ken she will torture him, making him watch Boku no Pico after the battle. At this point, Ken begins to fear Susan more than any war that awaits him. He shouts for Kazuki to help him, and his friend arrives instantly and tells Susan to calm her kitten, as Siglise is calling for them. Arriving at the location, Siglise informs the heroes that the Demon King's army will be here in 1 hour, and when that happens, they will first try to trick them by launching a magic attack, which will give them an advantage over the enemy soldiers in combat. Siglise also asks the two heroes to ensure they bring back the heads of their enemies. Susan, eager for bloodshed, promises to bring good news to King Lloyd. When Kazuki and Susan take their positions, he asks her if she is peeing her pants. Susan confidently states that she is not peeing, but pooping. However, she also admits that she can't help but feel a little excited. This leads Kazuki to comment that she has certainly come a long way from the girl he knew in Japan. Hearing this, Susan agrees that her past self is gone and that this new her has even been accepted by Ken. Feeling left out, Kazuki asks why they left him out, which makes her laugh. To tease him further, she tells Kazuki that if they ever return to Japan, she will let him explore her new self, and with that the battle begins. The mages fire their magic at the Demon King's army, while Kazuki and Susan support them using their own powers. However, they quickly discover that the demons tricked them with illusion magic. Back at the rescue team, Rose tells Tong and the NPCs in black to take the wounded back to camp. Turning to Orga and Yururu, she states that their duty is to take care of the wounded. Haruko will be protecting them, but if an emergency arises, they must prioritize saving their own skins. And finally, she turns to Ken and says that they will only participate on the battlefield when their soldiers are no longer able to fight. Until then, they will heal and help Orga and Yururu. As soon as Rose finishes giving orders, Tong brings a wounded soldier. Upon seeing her, Ken's hands begin to tremble. He pulls himself together and begins to do his job when the wounded knight reveals that she was taken down by a giant snake. Ken instantly freezes, knowing it is probably the same serpent monster he encountered in the dark forest. Meanwhile, on the battlefield, Baljanak continues to terrorize the Linger soldiers. Witnessing the scene from afar, the Black Knight calls the humans pathetic when a soldier dares to wound him. Despite stabbing him, the soldier ends up meeting his fate as the Black Knight heals automatically. As the brave soldier takes his last breaths, he tries to warn the others about the threat that awaits them. The Black Knight calls him a pest for clinging to his miserable life and is about to eliminate him when one of the NPCs throws a bunch of stink bombs and manages to take the wounded soldier with him. At first, the Black Knight is surprised, but then realizes that Amila told him about the so-called kidnappers, which makes him laugh darkly as he plans to bring death upon them. Back at the rescue team, Rose tells Ken that it is time for them to join the battlefield and asks if he is nervous. Ken mocks and states that he was born for this. With that, the two healers run into battle when Rose says a wounded soldier muttered something about a knight dressed in black armor. Suddenly, Ken remembers the vision the mysterious fox girl showed him. He tries to push away the fear and anxiety he felt when he saw that scene when Rose gives him advice to help him focus. He thanks her, and the two go their separate ways. Meanwhile, Kazuki and Susan find themselves facing the Black Knight. Kazuki, being a fool, attacks the monster despite Susan's opposition and ends up wounded. Susan then observes that the Black Knight possesses reflection magic. If she launches an attack against him, she will hurt herself. After observing the Black Knight, Susan comes to believe that if they attack him from behind, he won't be able to use his reflection powers. So she tries to put her strategy into action, and at first, Susan believes she succeeded until the Black Knight calls her naive. Seconds later, Susan finds Kazuki stuck on the monster's sword like a dead sheep, while she herself is bleeding severely. The Black Knight then tells Susan to save her theories for Reddit, as everything she believes about him is false. He can use his reflection power at will, and there simply is no one who can take him down. Susan is overcome with fear. She sees Kazuki lying unconscious in his own pool of blood, while the Black Knight casually calls them a bunch of cowards. Susan finally breaks down and remembers the first time she met Ken. It was when their lives changed forever. She was happy when she found herself in another world, as she could finally escape the people who expected her to always be at her best. But what truly healed her sadness was Ken accepting her for who she is. Meanwhile, the Linger soldiers cry in panic upon seeing their heroes fall in battle. The demons, thinking it is their victory, urge the Black Knight to finish off the heroes once and for all. But just as the Black Knight is about to deliver a fatal blow, Ken arrives and performs an attack so powerful it makes the enemy fall. Turning to his friends, Ken looks on in horror, wondering if he arrived too late. Without waiting another moment, he uses healing light, and seconds later Susan regains consciousness. However, her worries are far from over as the Black Knight begins to scream in anger. To everyone's shock, they discover that the formidable Black Knight is a girl. As she tries to attack them, Ken grabs his friends and runs to a safe place. On the way, he assures Rose that Kazuki's injuries are almost healed and that he should wake up soon. Suzune thanks him and then tells Ken about the Black Knight's reflective power. However, she points out that his previous attack definitely left the enemy irritated, which means it worked. At first, Ken complains that having such a power is basically cheating, and that it would have been better if he had just reincarnated as the fishnet stockings of a goth girl. It doesn't take long for the Black Knight to catch up to Ken and the team. With vengeance in her voice, she tells Ken that she will make him pay for hurting her before. He gulps, knowing he actually doesn't want to fight the Black Knight, but as long as she remains on the battlefield, he won't be able to do his job as a healer. So Ken gathers his courage and tells Suzune to take care of Kazuki. With that, he runs towards the Black Knight, who uses her armor to attack him. But to his surprise, her deadly thorns are useless against Ken. Meanwhile, Kazuki wakes up and Suzune informs him about how their loser friend arrived in time and saved him from having a cup of tea with the German painter in hell. Kazuki then observes Ken fighting head-on with the Black Knight, surprised that her attacks have no effect on Ken. As the two heroes watch the battle from afar, they realize the Black Knight's kryptonite is Ken's healing magic. This makes Suzune laugh as she states that this is definitely the wrong way to use healing magic. Meanwhile, the girl goes crazy after taking punch after punch. She releases a frightening amount of mana, but Ken assures his friends that he's got this and runs towards the core of the knight's armor. Then, using a healing punch, he completely destroys her armor and secures victory for himself. Ken quickly heals the other injured soldiers, who reveal to him that since he defeated the Dark Knight, the demon army quickly retreated, afraid of how powerful he is. Upon hearing this, Ken looks at the unconscious Dark Knight, who now looks like an ugly OnlyFans model who was wrecked by 10 guys. Feeling happy, Ken basks in the glory when Suzune asks him about the healing punch. He humbly states that it's a technique Rose taught him just before the war started. After listening to him chatter, Suzune thanks him for saving them from being beaten to death by a bratty demon. Suddenly, Rose arrives and Suzune apologizes, allowing Rose to check on how Ken is doing. Upon learning that he defeated the Black Knight and saved the heroes, Rose tells Ken that he did a good job and suggests they should retreat. Elsewhere, Amila finds out that the Black Knight was captured. Her eyes widen in disbelief as she asks the informant if it was Rose, but he reveals it was a man with emo hair. Frustrated, she turns to Hiruluk and says they will withdraw their troops until she has more information about the boy who took down her strongest. Before Hiruluk can call back Baljanak, he sees Kazuki and Suzune eliminate his precious reptile. Meanwhile, Rose and Ken heal the wounded when she tells him that if it weren't for him, his friends would have died and they would have lost. At that moment, Ken realizes that all that intense training Rose put him through was to prepare him for this day. When he starts to cry, Rose puts a hood on him to block his ugly face from her sight. After crying like a loser, Ken falls onto Rose's breasts. She realizes he is out of mana and allows him to have some quality time with her chest pillows, something you losers would never experience even in your next life. Back at his humble abode, Ken cries about how he had a hard time in the war. However, he cheers up at the idea of receiving a reward from King Lloyd, since in the past he was so stupid he could fail his own blood test. Blurin ignores everything Ken says and continues to eat his favorite snacks, which makes him realize his fat bear has gotten rounder than he already was. Suddenly, Gomel arrives and tells Ken that he has been summoned by the king again. Before he goes, he also warns Ken to be careful on the way. Confused, he asks Gomel what he means by that, but the NPC refuses to say anything more. Ken soon realizes what Gomel meant. For the moment he arrives at the castle town, he is surrounded by the civilians who praise him for his bravery. They offer all kinds of treats, making him nervous. But among them is the mysterious fox girl, who ignores Ken and leaves the crowd. After finally breaking free, Ken arrives at the castle, where Ruku thanks him for saving his comrades on the battlefield. In response, Ken asks him not to be so formal with him. He also tells Aruku that he has always been a reliable bodyguard and offers his gratitude for his services. Upon hearing Ken praise him, Thomas appears out of nowhere and begins to sing Aruku's praises, which makes him uncomfortable, and he asks Ken to just enter the damn palace. Upon arriving, Siglise and King Lloyd ask Ken to help them interrogate the Black Knight. Remembering that underneath the scary armor, she was just a little girl, Ken asks if they are having trouble with her. To his surprise, Siglisse reveals that the Black Knight has no love for the demon army and has been very cooperative. However, they still need to obtain critical information from her which she refused to give, as she wants him to interrogate her. On the way to the dungeon, Kin is accompanied by Suzun and Siglisse. When Kin asks why she is going with him, since she was useless, Suzun proudly states that she is willing to be his meat shield if necessary. Siglisse then talks about how his healing magic proved to be lethal against the Black Knight's dark magic. Upon hearing this, Kin begins to panic. Realizing that she must be in a lot of pain, he runs to her prison cell and asks if she is injured. The Black Knight admits that she hurts everywhere and that this pain she is feeling is strange to her, as she has never experienced anything like it before. When Kin asks why she wants to see him, the girl reveals that she wanted to meet the person who defeated her so badly. Having considered the risk, Kin asks Siglisse to open the prison door, as he must enter to help the young knight. At first, the Black Knight resists, but Kin coaxes her to let him in, and once she agrees, he uses his healing light, making her armor disappear. Sensing the warmth and love coming from Kin, the girl begins to cry and tells Kin that she has never felt like this before. The next day, Kin's protein-addicted woman states that she will increase the intensity of his training, as the demon army will probably attack again. After throwing a tantrum, Kin is informed by Rose that he cannot rely solely on healing magic to treat his injuries, as there are weapons imbued with cursed energy that render his healing abilities useless. Therefore, he must learn battle tactics against these formidable weapons, or he will be thrown away. After 3 whole days of being treated like a ragdoll, Kin finally gets a break and decides to visit the Black Knight. She looks at him irritably as he talks about Rose, but when she tells him to leave her alone, Kin lets her rot by herself. Meanwhile, Rose is before King Lloyd, who asks her for another favor. Moments later, she arrives at the dungeon and tells the Black Knight that she has 2 options. She can live the rest of her life in this ugly prison cell, where she will have no toilet paper, or she can go with her and become part of the kingdom of Linger. To further show her kindness, Rose gives the girl a hard slap and puts a magical collar on her, designed to seal mana. After knocking her out, Rose takes her back to her home, where Kin discovers her plans to train the Black Knight. That night, Rose reveals to him that King Lloyd intends to send him and his friends as messengers to other kingdoms, so the humanities stand a chance against the full potential of the Demon Lord. The next day, as Kin strolls through the castle town, he notices he now has fans. He meets up with Suzun, but ignores her when he spots the Fox Girl. Running up to her, he lifts her into the air, but the Fox Girl says it's time for him to pay her back. Introducing herself as a Mako, the Fox Girl reveals that her mother is terribly ill and that he is the only one who can save her. Suzun, watching the scene, runs over to pet a Mako, which makes Kin yell at her. Meanwhile, the Black Knight trains with the other NPCs who mock her for being slow. Irritated, she calls them goblins for being ugly. Suddenly, Rose arrives and gives the Dark Knight a hard slap for being lazy. On the other hand, Suzun finds out that it was a Mako who showed Kin a vision of her and Kazuki dying. Once the backstory was covered, a Mako reveals that she had to leave her home and seek out a healer, as her mother is bedridden with an illness. In the beast community, they have no reliable healers. That is why she came to Linger, hoping a healer would help her. When Kin asks why she didn't visit Orga and his sister's clinic, Amako reveals that to get to the Thurian territories, they will have to make a long journey for which Orga and his sister are not suited. Suzun points out that she could ask Rose, but Amako states that she is afraid of her, and besides, she had a vision of Rose rejecting her. After pondering for a while, Kin tells Amako that he wants to help, but must ask Rose first. However, when he reveals the whole story to Rose, she states that anything involving the Thurians is a serious matter, as no kingdom is allowed to have him in their lands due to their special talents. But knowing Kin, Rose decides to help him by taking the matter to King Lloyd. Later that day, the Black Knight refuses to touch her food, so Kin gives her a diary, which will help her feel less lonely. The next day, she begins to train more seriously, but is horrified to see the intensity with which Rose trains Kin. Noticing the Black Knight's interest in Kin, Rose tells both of them that from now on she will be trained by Kin. After she leaves, Kin finally asks her real name, and she reveals it is Felm. Thinking it's no big deal, Kin gets distracted by Blurin, which irritates Felm since sharing names is important to her. She asks if he isn't going to say anything else, but Kin states that since her name isn't Sydney Sweeney, it doesn't matter. Hurt, Felm starts running to escape the embarrassment and ends up fainting later. That night, while Felm tries to find snacks, she overhears a conversation between Rose and Kin about him going on a journey to deliver letters to other kingdoms. Upon learning such crucial information, Felm wakes up early and runs off. Meanwhile, Kin and Amako arrive at the castle, where King Lloyd wholeheartedly thanks her for saving the kingdom. With that, he tells Kin that they have decided to grant his wish. So he will be permitted to visit Mylark, a kingdom that lies next to the Varian territory. Amako thanks the king while Rose quickly catches up to Felm. She explains that at first she thought she was going to warn the demons about their plans, but since she is camping in the forest, it must mean she seriously hoped to join Kin on his mission. Felm blushes and asks Rose why she isn't worried about him, to which she reveals that Kin is basically a war god now that he has healing properties, so the only ones who need to fear are his enemies. That night, Rose approaches Kin and tells him that going on this mission will change him, but she has faith in him. This makes him cry, and he becomes absolutely certain that he will stay in this world and protect those he loves.